Never do these 5 triceps exercises after 40. Replace them with these others. The triceps is one of the muscle groups that men love training the most, and for good reason. It represents 2/3 of the volume of your arm. Unfortunately, many people have been training triceps for years and cannot truly develop it. And worse, there is no shortage of stories from people who injured their elbow precisely by training this muscle. After years of experience in this field, I can say that both problems almost always have the same root cause: the wrong exercise selection, especially after 40. And let's be honest, it is nearly impossible for a modern gym with 2 or 3 trainers for hundreds of members to put together a program that respects your individual needs. That is why today you will see the 5 triceps exercises you should avoid after 40 and 4 replacement exercises, so you can be sure you are following a program that protects your elbow and your joints without stalling your results. Before we get started, leave a comment below with your name and your biggest training challenge right now. We will do our best to read as many comments as possible. Exercise number 1, dumbbell skull crushers. This is probably the most traditional triceps exercise in gyms, and I myself insisted on it for years until my elbow started sending me the bill. The big problem with dumbbell skull crushers lies in the physics of the movement. When you lower the weight toward your forehead, the lever arm becomes enormous at exactly the point where the triceps tendon is most stretched and vulnerable. All the torque of the movement concentrates on a single small joint, the elbow, with no other large muscle to share the load. After 40, this matters much more than it did at 25. As the years go by, tendons lose some of their elasticity and recovery capacity because collagen production naturally decreases. The result is that the discomfort that used to disappear in 2 days now turns into tendinitis that stays with you for months. And there is an aggravating factor. With dumbbells, each arm works independently, which demands much greater control during the eccentric phase. It only takes one poorly controlled repetition, with the weight dropping toward your face, for the tendon to suffer acute stress that it no longer tolerates the way it once did. I have observed that most chronic elbow pain in people over 40 involves this exercise somewhere in the history. And the worst part is that it is not even irreplaceable. There are ways to work the same portion of the triceps, the long head, with constant tension and far less peak joint stress, as you will see in the second part of this video. If you feel clicking or pain in the back of your elbow when performing this movement, take that as a warning from your body, not an invitation to keep pushing through. Pushing through an exercise that hurts is not discipline, it is stubbornness with a scheduled appointment at the orthopedist. Exercise number 2, parallel bar dips. Parallel bar dips are sold as the king of triceps exercises, but after 40, they come at too high a price. The first problem is the load. On the parallel bars, you work with your entire body weight with no option to reduce it. If you weigh 200 pounds, that is 200 pounds coming down on your shoulders and elbows whether you like it or not. There is no fine-tuning, and fine-tuning is exactly what a mature joint needs. The second problem is shoulder position. At the lowest point of the movement, the shoulder goes into deep extension while supporting all that weight, compressing the anterior capsule and the rotator cuff tendons. This is one of the highest stress positions that exists for the shoulder joint, and the rotator cuff is precisely what suffers the most natural wear with age. It is no coincidence that so many shoulder injuries in experienced trainees happen on this exercise. One mistake I see many people make is thinking that going lower means training heavier and better. In practice, the lower you go in a dip, the greater the compression on the shoulder, and the smaller the additional benefit to the triceps. The cost rises much faster than the return, and there is still the elbow issue. At the lowest point, it supports the entire body in deep flexion, something that tendons with 4 or 5 decades of use do not easily forgive. You do not need to prove anything to anyone on the parallel bars. At 40, the trophy worth having is training the entire year without stopping due to injury. There are exercises that deliver the same stimulus to the triceps with fully controllable load and without putting your shoulder in that high-risk position. Switching is not regression, it is training with intelligence. Exercise number 3, diamond push-ups. The diamond push-up is the variation where your hands are placed together under your chest, forming a diamond shape with your fingers. It does activate the triceps well, nobody disputes that. The problem is what it does to your wrists, elbows, and shoulders along the way. By bringing your hands together in the center, you force your wrists into an extreme angle of extension and deviation while supporting much of your body weight on them. After 40, when the cartilage and ligaments of the wrist no longer have the same tolerance, this becomes a recipe for chronic pain. At the elbows, the narrow grip creates valgus stress, a lateral force that the inner ligaments of the elbow must absorb with every repetition. And at the shoulders, the narrow hand position promotes internal rotation under load, one of the classic triggers of joint impingement. In addition, the diamond push-up suffers from the same problem as the dip. The load is your body weight, all or nothing. You cannot do a version with 70% of the load on a day when your joints are sensitive. Either you support your entire body, or you do not do it at all. That lack of control is acceptable at 20 years old, but it becomes an unnecessary risk after 40. What many people do not realize is that the activation advantage of the diamond push-up over other variations comes precisely from the unfavorable joint positions it imposes. In other words, the supposed benefit and the risk are the same thing seen from different angles. Mature trainees can get the same elbow extension stimulus from exercises with adjustable load, a neutral wrist position, and stable shoulders, which you will learn about shortly. There is no rational reason to choose the option that hurts the most, controls the least, and also limits your load progression. Exercise number 4, triceps on the preacher bench. This exercise gained popularity as a way to isolate the triceps by resting the arms on the preacher bench, that angled bench traditionally used for biceps curls. And it is precisely that support that creates the problem. With the arms locked against the pad, the elbow loses any possibility of natural adjustment during the movement. All the tension concentrates on the joint at a fixed angle, and the point of highest load occurs exactly in the most stretched position of the triceps when the tendon is under maximum elongation. In a young person, the body tolerates this kind of repeated aggression. After 40, this combination of a stretched tendon, high load, and zero joint freedom is one of the shortest paths to elbow tendinopathy. There is also a second problem, less talked about. The position on the preacher bench places the shoulder at an angle that reduces the involvement of the long head of the triceps, which is precisely the largest portion of the muscle. In other words, you accept more joint risk to work less muscle. It is a bad deal no matter how you look at it. A common mistake is thinking that because it is an isolation exercise done seated and supported, it would automatically be safer. Support is not the same as safety. In this case, the support is exactly what prevents the body from protecting itself. I have observed that trainees over 40 who persist with this movement frequently report that sharp, localized pain in the back of the elbow that shows up days after training and takes weeks to go away. If that is your situation, the solution is not to lower the weight and keep suffering in silence. It is to replace the exercise with options that keep the tension on the muscle and remove the stress from the tendon without you losing anything in terms of results. Exercise number 5, pullover. The pullover is a curious case because it should not even be on a list of triceps exercises, yet many people use it with that intention. Lying on a bench, holding a dumbbell above your chest and bringing the weight behind your head, you do feel the triceps working, especially the long head. But feeling it is not the same as developing it. In the pullover, the triceps acts only as a supporting player, sharing the work with the chest, the latissimus dorsi, and the serratus anterior. The tension that actually reaches the triceps is too small to generate meaningful hypertrophy. It is pure low effectiveness. And the cost of that low effectiveness is high. To perform the movement, the shoulder must travel to an extreme range above the head with a massive lever arm, bearing the load in the position where the joint is most vulnerable. After 40, when shoulder mobility naturally decreases and the joint capsule becomes less tolerant, that forced range of motion under load becomes an invitation to impingement and rotator cuff injuries. There is also the straightforward and very real risk of fatigue. The weight is literally suspended behind your head, and a strength failure at the end of a set is unforgiving. One mistake I see many people make is keeping the pullover in their program out of tradition because some old school bodybuilding idol used to do it. But those athletes were training that way in their early 20s, with different genetics, different recovery capacity, and, let us be honest, different assistance. Copying their program after 40 means copying the wrong context. It is like using a map of another city and getting frustrated for being lost. If your goal is the long head of the triceps, there is a much more direct and safer way to train it. And it is precisely the first exercise in the next part of this video. Now that you know what to avoid, let us move on to the 4 replacements that protect your joints. Exercise number 1, overhead cable triceps extension. If I could choose only one triceps exercise to take with me after 40, this would be it. The overhead cable triceps extension primarily works the long head, the largest portion of the muscle and the one that contributes most to total arm volume. And it does so under perfect conditions. With the arm raised above the head, the long head is fully stretched, and training a muscle in a lengthened position is one of the greatest secrets of modern hypertrophy. A Japanese study published in 2022 compared overhead elbow extensions with extensions in a neutral position and found approximately 40% more triceps growth in the group that trained with the arm elevated. That is an enormous difference for a simple change in position. And the best part, the cable delivers constant tension from start to finish without that aggressive load spike at the point of lengthening that dumbbells create. It is maximum stimulus with minimum joint stress, exactly what a mature elbow needs. To perform it correctly, set the pulley at the low position on the machine, grab the bar or rope attachment, stand with your back to the machine, and bring your hands behind your head with your elbows pointing upward. From there, extend your elbows to near full extension and return in a controlled manner, feeling the deep stretch in the triceps. An extra tip, take a step forward and lean your torso slightly. This increases the range of motion and intensifies the stretch on the long head. The main mistakes are flaring your elbows out to the sides, turning the movement into a shoulder push, and cutting the eccentric phase short, which is precisely where this exercise delivers the most results. Always lower in 2 to 3 seconds, controlling every inch of the path. You will know you are doing it right when you feel a deep stretch in the back of your arm, almost a good discomfort with every repetition. Do 3 to 4 sets of 10 to 15 repetitions with 60 seconds of rest. The only relevant contraindication is for those with a serious shoulder mobility limitation or pain when raising the arms above the head. In that case, start with light load and partial range of motion, progressing gradually. Exercise number 2. Cable rope triceps pushdown. The cable rope triceps pushdown is the perfect complement to the previous exercise. Because while the overhead extension prioritizes the long head, the rope emphasizes the lateral head, that outer portion that gives width and definition to the arm when viewed from the front. The beauty of this exercise lies in its ability to deliver a great deal of stimulus with almost no joint stress. The elbow works in a neutral and natural position, tucked at the sides of the torso with no load and extreme elongation. The rope also allows the wrist to rotate freely during the movement, which eliminates the discomfort that many people feel with straight bars. After 40, that wrist freedom makes an enormous difference in comfort and training longevity. Another rarely mentioned benefit is the ease of progression. Since the load is adjusted in small increments on the machine itself, you can apply progressive overload gradually without making abrupt jumps that the joint cannot keep up with. When you include the cable rope pushdown in your routine, it functions as that reliable exercise that never fails and never causes injury. Regular trainees can maintain it for decades without any sign of wear, something extremely rare in the world of arm training. To perform it correctly, set the pulley at the high position, hold both ends of the rope with a neutral grip, lock your elbows at your sides, and extend your arms downward to full extension. Return in a controlled manner until your forearms pass the line parallel to the floor. An extra tip that multiplies results. At the bottom of the extension, spread the two ends of the rope outward and hold the contraction for 1 second. That simple detail noticeably increases muscle recruitment of the lateral head. The main mistakes to avoid are using too much weight and compensating with your torso, letting your elbows drift forward during the return, and doing half repetitions. If your shoulder rises with every repetition, the weight is too heavy for your triceps and too light for your ego. Do 3 to 4 sets of 12 to 15 repetitions with 45 to 60 seconds of rest. Contraindications are practically non-existent. Only those in an acute phase of elbow tendinitis should reduce the load and range of motion until the pain disappears completely. Exercise number 3, seated triceps machine. If there is one triceps exercise made to measure for those who have passed 40, it is this one. The seated triceps machine solves in one shot the 3 biggest problems of free weight exercises: instability, peak load at the wrong point, and lack of support for the spine. Seated with the torso supported and the movement guided, all the effort goes where it should, into the triceps, and nothing spills over onto the structures you want to protect. This allows something precious: applying progressive overload safely. After 40, the greatest limiter of results is usually not the muscle's capacity to grow, but rather the joint's capacity to tolerate heavy training. The machine solves exactly that bottleneck. You can train truly heavy, get close to failure, and still get up from the bench with your elbow intact. I have observed that many mature trainees unlock years of arm stagnation simply by transferring their heaviest sets from dumbbells to the machine. And there is still a mental bonus. Without the concern of balancing the weight or dropping it, you can focus entirely on the muscle contraction, which improves the mind-to-muscle connection and muscular recruitment with every repetition. To perform it correctly, adjust the seat so that your elbow is aligned with the machine's axis of rotation. That detail is the most important of all. Press your back firmly against the pad, grab the handles and extend your elbows fully, returning slowly through the eccentric phase, which is where 40 to 50% of the hypertrophy potential lies. An extra tip: Pause for 1 second at full extension, squeezing the triceps before returning. The main mistakes are adjusting the seat carelessly and leaving the elbow misaligned from the axis and shrugging the shoulders during the effort. Do 3 sets of 8 to 12 repetitions, using this machine as the heaviest exercise in your triceps workout, and progress from 3 to 4 sets when the loads stall. The only contraindication is for those with an active elbow injury in a painful phase. Outside of that, this is quite possibly the most accessible and safest triceps exercise that exists in gyms. Exercise number 4, close grip bench press. To finish, the only compound exercise on the list, and it deserves that special place. The close grip bench press is the triceps exercise that allows the heaviest loads of all, because the chest and shoulders come in as helpers, sharing the effort and protecting the elbow from working alone. That division of labor is a huge advantage after 40. You generate a heavy elbow extension stimulus without concentrating all the stress on a single joint. It intensely works the lateral and medial heads of the triceps, and here is the piece of information you need to hold on to. The close grip bench press is the only triceps exercise that masterfully develops what we call the horseshoe. That inverted U-shaped definition that appears on the back of the arm when the triceps is complete and well developed. Those who want impressive arms after 40 cannot do without it. And because it is a compound movement, it still delivers an extra strength stimulus to the chest and shoulders, which means more results per minute of training invested. To perform it correctly, lie on the bench, grip the bar at shoulder width or just slightly narrower, retract your shoulder blades to protect your shoulders, and lower the bar in a controlled manner to the lower part of your chest, keeping your elbows close to your torso. Press upward by extending your elbows forcefully. An extra tip, think about pushing your body away from the bar, not the bar away from your body. That simple mental shift improves stability and muscle recruitment. The most dangerous mistake is going too narrow with the grip. Hands too close together do not activate more triceps, they only destroy your wrists. Other common mistakes are flaring your elbows out as you would in a traditional bench press and bouncing the bar off your chest. Do 3 to 4 sets of 6 to 10 repetitions, preferably at the beginning of your workout when you have full strength. The contraindications apply to those with active shoulder or wrist injuries. In those cases, the machine version or a neutral grip variation usually resolves the discomfort. If you enjoyed this and want to see the biceps exercises you should also avoid after 40, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each one of them in detail. It is free, so make sure you check it out. Thank you for watching all the way through, and may God bless you, my friend.